Wide-scale dissatisfaction with accessibility and standards of service provision in South Africa has manifested in high levels of service delivery protests across the country. Where services are functioning, there seems to be a low level of citizen awareness around how and when to access them. Local government officials are not always efficient in drawing on the existing community capitals to set responsive service delivery priorities. Apartheid structural inequalities remain in place, and under-resourced communities continue to struggle with the weight of this legacy.
One of the issues that was very clear in the 1980s was that people organized around the things that they needed to change. So there was a very strong civil society movement in health. There were very strong civic organizations. There were NGOs all organizing around health and trying to change the then apartheid health system.
Blacks in South Africa were #1 dispossessed of land, formally, legally dispossessed of land. And we know again in this province we saw mass forced removals from areas where black people had lived for generations, and that social and economic dislocation is at the heart of many of the socioeconomic problems that we see.
When the democratic government came into place, everyone had lots of expectations that things would get better, things would change. And many things did change for the better, but many things were very hard to change. And even though we have a constitution now which says that people have rights, you have a right of access to healthcare, you have a right of access to social security, it's not realized in practice, and we see that every day.
The big problem in South Africa is the huge inequalities that we have in our neighborhoods and between neighborhoods. And so you have people who have no resources, no work, who are just dealing with the consequences of apartheid on their own as individuals. Children are not able to finish their schooling. We've got a growing number of unemployed youth. They become kind of a feeder system to the gangs. And so by providing social capital, you're addressing that socio-economic gap in little pockets of the communities.
Hoekom ek regtig eintlik hier is, ek wil 'n verandering maak in my community, en van die gangsterisme is eintlik die myn ding wat daar in die community aangaan. En daar is baie kinders wat gaan slaap op sonder kos aan, en van hulle ouers is nie daar nie, of die ouer het miskien net die week het gekom, maar net die sak by huis gesit en nou gaan die ouer weer weg en gaan verbruik drugs en goede.
And my interest in the field of psychology is around community psychology, where you really look at malfunctioning in the community, or even individual struggles, stress, depression, substance abuse, and a range of other challenges that people might experience. And from the community psychology aspect, is you try and address those things from a collective point of view.
And we found that a lot of people have attended a lot of workshops with no results. And so we have to ask ourselves why. And I think that our training program is looking at post-training, how do we mentor people so that there's a support structure in place so that you don't just get trained and get left on your own to kind of sink or swim, but that we work together with the University of Cape Town. They're developing a leadership program as well as a post-phase for people that we identify as suitable for moving on to the next level of training.
I'm a strong proponent that community strengthening activities should be focused on empowerment, on enablement, on agency on behalf of community members, to be informed partners in co-creating things that is ultimately in their own benefit. But I think society is obviously going to benefit from empowered, organized, enabled community structures.
So the purpose of the community system strengthening process is really to look at the people in the community who are already working and making a difference, and providing you with the skills to be able to make that difference in your communities. We can't wait any longer. We're not seeing that there's any progress on the government side, so we want to look at us now as citizens.
We started off meeting with Anita and the Health Forum because we are from the CPF, so we had to attend several meetings. So with the training session started, I also said that I want to be involved. You know, you're never too young to learn, and you're never too old to learn. So this has really helped me, and ever since then, ever since the training started, I've been committed and I've been attending the training sessions.
I think what sets this initiative apart is that it's not just a vague notion of empowerment. We're teaching practical skills, and so we are taking community members without sufficient formal education and training them to be the professionals in the community, providing the services that they've identified as lacking.
UCT has partnered with the Belhar Community Health Forum. The Belhar Community Health Forum is one of the oldest health committees in Cape Town, and they've been working a long time. And UCT has committed itself to engaging with communities and doing research in a way that we call socially responsive. In other words, that the research that we do is not just about big words or big titles, but it's also about things that matter to ordinary people and that respond to the needs of people.
Belhar was conceptualized on apartheid spatial planning principles as a model colored township, catering to the more affluent members of the colored community. However, as the Group Areas Act was fast-tracked in the 1970s, the area became a dumping ground for people forcibly removed from other parts of the city. This resulted in a divided Belhar, with people from a wide range of socio-economic backgrounds. It evolved over time into a receiver neighborhood for relocated colored people. A quote from an August 2004 newspaper article in the Cape Argus strikingly summarizes this. Belhar is divided along class lines. One half is home to an affluent, quiet community of professionals, while the other is battling drugs and gangsterism. It may have one name, but it is home to two different communities.
So ons sê welkom hier vandag en ons hoop dat soos ons gehoor het ook that you stay the duration of the course, and we are very happy that we are partnering with UCT and also Klapmuts Committee, the community informed by Women on Farms. So ons is die tweede gemeenskap wat die opportunity kry waar training plaasvind en ons sê sterkte forum toe. Baie dankie.
I had the opportunity to work with the Belhar Health Committee to address a real challenge in Belhar, and that was the closure of one facility to open another facility, the movement of healthcare between. And then I saw in true action how, as government services, the province together with the city could truly work in partnership with community members to inform a broader community of how the healthcare service in their area is going to unfold, to negotiate what it should look like, to negotiate the transitions, to negotiate all the possible pitfalls that goes to there. So I really take my hat off to the members of the Belhar Health Committee, because that was a real schooling for me after 20 years of seeing all of those things coming into action.
The Health Committee was started in the very early 90s, informed by issues that residents experience, long waiting hours and long queues and so many other things. And it was a civic association of the day that took the initiative for us to launch around about 91, 92.
4 programmatic areas were identified, namely child protection, access to food and nutrition, peace building, and health education. By addressing the extent of chronic illnesses in communities struggling with significant social dysfunction.
I think South Africa's got very, very vulnerable citizens as a consequence of apartheid. I think often we think of apartheid as something that happened a long time ago. It's still the same generation of people. It didn't happen 100 years ago. And so people are living with the consequences.
There's very, very strong evidence that, for example, there's something called the ecological model. It's basically they divide the environment of an individual in different layers. So there's the individual, but the individual is never alone. There's always a family or some sort of care people around him. Then the family doesn't exist alone. The family exists within a community. The community, again, is not alone. Community exists in a broader society. Society doesn't just function without rules and law and those things. That it's within a political system, a social system, a cultural system, and so on. So there's various layers that encompasses a person's environment.
Sy word gepressure om dinge te doen in die lewe wat sy nie wil doen nie, wat sy nie jouself sien om te doen nie. Sy het nie nodig om in depressie te val of in enige ander slegte situasie. Sy moet net jouself help. En al het ook die familie wat vir jou bystaan nie, daar is mense daar buitekant, soos die groep mense hierso.
Ek het eintlik 'n drugprobleem gehad. En so toe ek vir gevra vir help dat ek wel uit die situation uitkom en ek het home care nursing gedoen, maar met alles dit het ek eers terwyl ek 'n DJ gewees het en so alles dit vir my net so in te pas gekom because wat daar is abuse in ons huis gewees. So vir my is dit net het vir my quite die situation het gehaal, het vir my quite vir balance in my lewe kon gewees mense wat dinge wat ek problems wat ek mee gesukkel het wat ek nooit kan wel uitgestaan het en toe ek die net besluit ek gaan net gaan maar die eerste dag ek gaan net gaan en gaan ek kyk waar hoe gaan dit en ek is spesiaal dat ek vandag hier is ek het baie vrugte koppelike uitgeloos waar as baie situations by die huis waar dinge gebeur wat ek kan sê deze situation wat ek myself moet insit die help my met my cravings die help my sekere mense because op 'n manier dag dan dat ek iets goed wat ek op fokus my gedagte dwaal meer nie as dit dat ek ledig is dat ek nou weer wonder waar ek nou my next fix kry nie en vir die Here dankie as hulle moet nou gegaan gewys het hoe ek gelyk toe ek gekom het en nou like voel ek goed.
Within the focus of child protection, this package will train child protection practitioners to run a community-based child safety forum in their communities. Training will include information and skills related to early childhood development and the establishment of day programs to increase child safety and support healthy child development.
The reason why I'm doing this is to help other kids. I enrolled in this thing because I wanted to work at a safe house where the abused children stays, to help them go through whatever they're going through, but also as a mother, because you never know what's going to happen in the future. So if and when I do have all this knowledge and something like that maybe do happen to a family member or a child or a person that I know, then I know exactly how to help that person.
The children in our community are children that are actually being broken down a lot through their parents. And I'm not saying that the child can blame your mother and your father why you didn't go to school or why you didn't achieve your dreams, but that mother or that father or that uncle, auntie, or because it's mostly your loved ones that brings you to your destruction, can be the reason why that child didn't achieve his or her dreams.
The challenges, I think, are numerous. I think a lot of the communities that we work in has got a lot of violence. So one of the aspects of the training is around peace building, and we haven't had a high uptake in that. And I think there's a real fear in communities because the gangs have a significant control over what happens in communities.
If you focus on strengthening what is happening in the community structures, then you actually can successfully address some of the challenges that these communities are experiencing.
We just come here as a group to learn the skills of how to manage our organization. And as for the forms that she gave us to get our board members together, we still also need to decide who's going to have the strength to do what, like Antoinette said, because we are also starting up, but we're already busy in our communities, and I'm so happy about it, and that motivates me also as a person, as I see I can feed the hungry kids.
By increasing dialogue, by building on the strengths that the community have within themselves, so the resources, you find out what it is that they have, who is doing what are their skills, what are the positives about the community, rather than just looking at the negatives. Like in Belha, people can easily say, ooh, gangsterism is a big problem, unemployment is a big problem, but it's very rarely that we actually look at what are the sort of resilience levels of these community members, what is it that they bring that makes them stand out.
So the same with the health training. We teach you a range of basic stuff for the first phase of training. So for instance, we'll teach you about diabetes, about TB, about prevention education, about home-based care. Then you decide.
I actually started with a few members, a cooperative that is CSS to transport and multi-purpose, going to store that there is a need in the community for people that is sick or cannot get to the clinic to go and fetch their medication. And so we started this off, but we're still trying to get it off its feet. I thought I know a lot, but I found out afterwards I really didn't know Zilks.
There's no ways that you can achieve socioeconomic justice without giving communities a voice. We know that you can provide as many resources or welfare programs as you like, but unless you actually enable communities to participate, then what they do and how they do it will not be sustainable. So we don't want to create a society where people are dependent on grants. We want to create a society where people use social development resources in order to produce their own networks, reinforce their own skills, build a collective way of addressing local problems that is sustainable in the long term.
We all need to get, how can you say, creative and learn more about life and how to help our people and help the community. Like, especially right now, we are doing food and nutrition. And basically, especially me that has 4 children, I learn about vitamins and what kind of food you need to eat. So now I can help, I have my children eat well and better. You know, because normally we just give food because that's what you were supposed to eat. But now I'm learning what kind of foods, what contains this food and what vitamins they actually have. So I'm learning about vitamin C, vitamin A, vitamin B, all of that stuff. And it's helping me being actually a better mother when it comes to food. Food is not affordable because, you know, in our communities you will see most of the people, they're living from grant, man, you know? And so when they pay, they go to the shops, they come back tomorrow, they have nothing.
We aim to start our own food garden. And so we're trying to train people to make their own food garden and so that they can sustain themselves through that garden so that they don't have to go beg or do anything like that. So, and have a healthy lifestyle by planting fruits, vegetables, and whatever they can.
So we're going to go not just into the content of it, but to raise consciousness about our environment and what it is that we as citizens can do. What power do we have left?
In terms of the developmental state, there is a ethos that's built on the principles that the state should be an enabler of working with people. And at its heart, it puts the development of its people at the heart of its business. So in my estimation, the developmental state is a crucial transformation tool, considering the history of the country.
Klapmuts is a grape and vegetable farming town about 55 kilometers east of Cape Town. The area is also subject to extreme social inequalities with high levels of poverty, alcohol abuse, violence, and rural displacement. Exploitative working conditions, including the persistence of the DOP system, where farm workers are paid with alcohol, and widespread interpersonal violence plague the area. In partnership with the University of Cape Town, the non-governmental organization Women on Farms has been working to combat gender violence and develop farm health teams.
Well, Women on Farms project is a feminist organization that works with women who live and work on commercial farms in the Western Cape and in the Northern Cape. So initially when we started 20 years ago, we worked with women who only lived on farms. But then as time evolved and as more farm workers were evicted from farms, we also started working with women who might work on farms as seasonal workers, but who live in townships and informal settlements around the main farming areas.
Women on Farms started as a project which really try to address the most vulnerable of the vulnerable in ways that nobody else was doing at the time. And they were really putting on record the need to address social justice issues for this very vulnerable group. We had a project addressing alcohol abuse amongst farm workers called Dop Stop, trying to address the consequence of the DOP system, which women on farms helped to support. So when it came to thinking about partners for this project and a rural site, they were our natural partners, and they were very keen to see this built into their work.
I think WFP's history with the health program, it started off as a domestic violence program. So women came to WFP with experiencing domestic violence in their homes. And the program grew, and it started, we work all over the Greater Western Cape, but Klapmuts is one of the areas.
Women on Farms project has been involved with the community system strengthening project for the last year, 18 months and so on. So basically from the time of its conceptualization until the time that we've actually started to implement it in the community.
Ietsie meer as 30 jaar gelede het ek Klapmuts na toe gekom. En weet julle, dit was baie rustig. Dinge het vinnig, want Klapmuts was 'n klein dorpie, maar weet jy, dit was baie veiliger. Ek onthou, ek het laat aan hier vanaf gegaan en jy kon, en hy het so uitgebrei en mense sien dat die geweld neem toe. Ons kinders loop op die strate, jy kan sien hulle doen niks. Ons het hier in nood gesien en gesê nee, maar iewers moet ons iets doen. En die verskil maak, en ons is bly toe hierdie kursus na vore kom waar dat ons iets kan doen.
We would come with, this is what we think we can train people in or the community in. But the topics we're covering is child protection, access to food and nutrition, and also the peace building. So we would, in the health program, we train women in gender-based violence, right to health, alcohol and substance. But when you go into a community, they have other issues, they have other challenges.
Ik heb op een vrouwenouderdom uit mijn oude reis getrekt terwille van dat. En dat is waar ik zwanger geraakt heb. En ik heb voor 7 jaar op mijn eigen gebleven. Dat ik nou eerst na laatste jaar teruggekeerd heb naar mijn oude reis toe. Ik heb weggewerkt van mijn hele familie af. En ik wil niet dat men met dat niks kan gebeuren. Het feit dat ik kom met een abusive verhouding uit, dat is wat mij nog sterker maakt vorentoe. En dat is wat ik wil vorentoe wil vatten in de gemeenschap. Om veel zelf op te bouwen en sterker te worden.
You bring communities together and you realize this is not an individual problem, this is a societal problem. We need to look at what are the root causes of this. Some of the problems that exist is historical problems, and people are, at the moment, people have reached a point where they're just coping.
My doel is ek wil saam met kinders werk, omdat ek het moeilike kinderjare gehad, voel ek wil daar wees vir kinders, ek wil soos daar by die safe home wil ek wees en ek wil vir hulle regtig help, ek wil 'n hand gee, ek wil vir hulle daar die drukkies gee wat hulle nie kry by die huisie, ek wil daar iemand wees wat hulle mee kan praat, ek wil net daar wees vir kinders.
If our people are not aware of their rights, they're not aware of their responsibilities related to that rights, they won't say anything, they will just accept. And they will just accept that it's all their fault. And what we're trying to do is to say, actually, hey, it's not your fault. There's other stuff that's happening. And if they know what that is and they know how to get themselves out of there, we've won half the battle.
Soveel sterker as soos die hele opleidings, die 3 dae is ons 2 al, man en vrou, want is die enigste man so as 'n egpaar is ons baie sterk.
This is not just a passive program. Where you come and we teach you about nutrition, or we teach you about whatever, and now you know. It's a very active program where now that you know, so now how are you going to change things in your community? I know that Klapmuts is highly under-resourced, and we need to ask the questions why. You know, we need to ask those. So we try also to capacitate them, and in that way, not just giving them new information and training them on content. Really, we basically want to empower them as we are in the process of doing now.
I think a really big challenge for us will be sustainability. We're fortunate, we've got the EU providing support, financial support for this project. And for people to set up these initiatives, they're doing it now with a resource base. We would have to find those links within local government to look at how these organizations that will be starting out as a result of the training, how they get further support. We'll also have to look at how we link them to donors and appropriate donors who provide support for the kind of work that they're doing.
So we're hoping through this project that the authorities will be able to recognize the value of investing in community strengthening. And we hope to produce the evidence to Department of Health, Department of Social Development, Security, etc., that they need to rethink how they plan to address the social problems in our communities, and they have to put people at the center of how they solve those problems.
So it's not going to be an easy goal to achieve. I think we have to constantly monitor and constantly evaluate and constantly look at, if we're serious about achieving sustainability, at what are the options for keeping these programs running after the 3-year process is completed.
We hope to be able to provide a blueprint. So in the long term, this is going to roll out from 3 communities to other communities and not require donor funding to keep it going. It should actually be the state's responsibility because our state has obligations under the Constitution to meet a lot of rights, and it's about time it did.